Okay, so now we're going to find measurements when given the volume. So what this means is, and of course pause the video and write everything down, and then you can resume the video whenever you get done writing everything down. But when you are dealing with cylinders or cones or spheres or any of those, sometimes they're going to give you the volume and ask what the radius is or ask what the height is. So that's what we're going to do now. So it is working backwards. And we do need to kind of review solving, but I'm going to set this problem up and then we'll talk about setting or reviewing solving equations. So when you find the height of a rectangular prism, when the volume is 504 feet cubed, remember that 3 up there means cubed, and the length is 8 and the width is 7 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the picture. So I'm going to say draw picture. I'm a very visual person, so it very much helps me to draw a picture of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. And I've had lots of practice, so that's why I can kind of do it pretty well. I say that and then the next thing I try to draw is going to be terrible, but... Okay, so there's my rectangular prism. We know that the volume, so everything that fills this entire thing is 504 feet cubed. The length is 8 feet, so the length would be the length of the base, and then the width is the width of the base. Now we're looking for this height. So I'm going to use h for height because I don't know what it is. And remember, in math, when we don't know what something is, we use a variable, or when it's an unknown number. So let's set it up just as if or like we've been doing. So if I'm looking for volume, we use volume equals big B for area of the base times the height. Well, since the base is a rectangle, area of the base is length times width, and I'm going to change that to a dot. So then our formula would be volume equals length times width times height. And so then we've drawn our picture. Now we need to plug in the numbers that we know. So I'll use my green highlighter. If you have a highlighter, that works. So 8 is my length. Let me see if I have one of my other highlighters out. If you don't have highlighters, you could always just use colored pens or box set or whatever. And then the 7 is our width. So I'm going to plug those two numbers in. So I'm going to plug in 8 for the length times 7 for the width times height. We don't know what the height is, so we're going to leave it as h equals, and then volume. So volume is that right there. We already know the volume, so I'm going to plug it in. So 504. So we plugged in the numbers that we knew, and now you're going to solve. So remember, to solve, I like to always circle my variable I'm looking for. So I'm going to circle the h. That's what I'm looking for. So now it's 8 times 7. So let's go ahead and do that. So 8 times 7 is 56. So it's still 56 times h equals 504. Now, sorry, I dropped a pen. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. So it's 56 times h. So if I'm looking for h, I need to do the insert. inverse or opposite of multiply. So what's the opposite of multiply? Would be divide, and then divide. So H equals, and then you have 504 divided by 56. And I am going to still continue to use my phone calculator just because I don't think you guys at home have a graphing calculator or a fancy calculator, so I want to use what you guys have. So I'm going to do 504 divided by 56, which would be 9. So 9 is our height. So then 9 would be what we are looking for. So that would be our answer. So remember, to solve, you have to do the opposite operation. All right, so this is the more simple one because you're not having to use pi. But our actual goals are talking about using cylinders, cones, and spheres, which all use pi. So now we're going to do this one. Again, write this down, pause the video if you need to, and I'm going to start. So example 2, find the height of the cylinder when the volume is 602.88 mm, stands for millimeters cubed, with a radius of 8 millimeters. Now, again, first thing I want you to do is draw the picture. So we're going to draw the picture. It's a cylinder. So there is that. Okay, so our volume is 602.88 with a radius of 8. So remember, a radius is from the middle of the circle to the edge. So radius is 8, and we're looking for the height. So again, I'm just going to use the letter H for height. Okay, the next thing we did up here is we wrote the formula. And I'm going to go ahead and put a 1, a 2, 3, and 4, just so you have all the steps. So step 1, we drew the picture. Step 2, we wrote the formula. Step 3, we plugged the numbers into that formula. And then step 4 is we solve. So we drew our picture. Now we need to write our formula. So write formula. So again, oh sorry, you couldn't see me writing that. So volume of a cylinder is volume equals area of the base, which area of a cylinder or area of a circle is pi r squared. So we know it's pi r squared times height. So area of the base is pi r squared. So there's our formula. Now we're going to plug in what we know. So I'm going to use my highlighters again. So pi we know is 3.14. Radius we know is 8. So I'm going to say 8 squared times, we don't know the height. We're going to still use pi. And then V is 602. So 602.88. Almost ran out of room there, sorry. Okay, so now we're going to solve. Okay, so when I do this, you always have to do, remember, order of operations. So I'm going to do 8 squared, which I'm going to get my calculator out. Oops, my screen is locked, so it's not letting me twist it. There we go. So remember, it's up like this, then twist it and it'll give you more options. So I'm going to hit 8 and then you hit this squared button. So 64. Okay, so then we have pi times 64. So remember pi, we're going to use 3.14. So I'm going to do 64 times 3.14, which is 296 times height equals 602.88. So all I did here is I did the squared, and that became 64. Once I did the squared, then I multiplied it by 3.14, which gave me this answer. Okay, now do just like we did up above. So I'm going to circle my variable. So I have 290.96 times height. So the opposite of multiply is to divide. So I'm going to divide by 200.96 and divide by 200.96. Those cancel. So we're left with just an H equals, and now I'm going to do this in my calculator. So I'm going to do 602.88 divided by 200.96, which gives me 3. So my height is 3. So that is my final answer. So on the assignment, I believe the first 2 problems are like this, where you're just going to find the height, and then the next 2 is where you're going to find the radius. So if you want to go try the first 2 on the assignment, you can do that. That's the nice thing about the videos, is you have the option to pause and start wherever. So if you want to go do the first 2 problems on the assignment, they're set up just like this. And then the next 2 problems are going to be set up like this one. Okay, so hopefully you did well on the assignment, or if you choose to do the assignment in a minute, that's fine too. So find the radius of a cylinder when the volume is 1,356.48 centimeters cubed. So this one we're given the height, and now we're finding the radius. Sorry, you can probably hear my husband and my son playing games in the background. But so you were going to find the radius. So again, this one the picture's already drawn. So then we need to write the formula. Which is volume equals, the area of the base is a circle. So since this circle is the base, you're going to do pi r squared and then times height. Plug in what you know. Okay, so we have volume. So volume. So we're going to do 1,356.48 equals, we know it stays pi. The radius is r. So the radius is going to stay r squared. Sorry, I should have made that pink, but I didn't. And then times the height, which is 12. So times 12. Okay, and then we're going to solve. Okay, so now this one is a little bit more challenging, and that's why I had you go do those other problems first. So if you look at this, you're going to see the 12 and the 3.14. Now remember, and this is just a little side note, 1 times 3, and this is just to remind you of some math facts. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 1 is also 3. So we can rearrange. I can't spell, sorry. So we can rearrange when multiplying. So I'm going to rewrite this so that the r squared, and some people write it differently, but I'm going to write it so that the r squared is at the front. So I'm going to put r squared times, and then I'm going to move the pi next to the 12. So pi 12 equals 1356.48. So pi times 12, so let's go ahead and do that. My calculator's not turning again. Okay, so 3.14 times 12 is 37.68. And again, you might want to write 3.14 there so that you don't forget. So we multiplied 3.14 times 12, and you get that with r squared. Okay, now again, circle your variable. So it's r squared. So the part that has the variable is r squared. And then it's times this. Well, the opposite of multiply is to divide. So I'm going to divide 37.68 and divide by 37.68. So I'm going to do that in my calculator. So 1356.48 divided by 37.68, and you get 36. So 36 equals r squared. So then if we have r squared, now this is something that we haven't done in a little while. So remember, if we have 36 equals r squared, that would mean r times r. So some number times itself gives you 36. So you can either think about that, or the opposite of squaring a number is to take the square root. So you should remember square root and squared are the opposite. So if I do that, then I'm left with r equals, and I take the square root of 36, and it tells me what it is. So this 36. Then if you hit this square root button over here, notice, let me move it up just a little bit. So it would be that button right there. Oops, too far. So then the answer is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. So that would be our radius. Let me focus it again. There we go. So then our radius would be 6. Okay, so again, finding measurements when given the volume, you're working backwards. So we worked backwards from the volume to find a measurement on that shape. And again, something I learned that first week is that I needed more examples since you guys were at home. So that's why this video is a little bit longer, and then the assignment shorter, just because we wanted to make sure that you had more explanation for the assignment.